welcome back. I share tons of project videos that I do for myself, but it's always fun when a friend reaches out to have me assist them on a project. So in today's video, we're going to be building a small electronic drum setup for my friend Adam Hatton. He brought over this small internal trigger made by Jobeky with the hopes that we could take one of my orphan drums and build a shell to mount it in and pair with a mesh head. Now what's really cool about this trigger is in addition to having a sensor that triggers with the mesh head, it also has a separate function to trigger when the shell or rim is hit. After taking a look through the graveyard of shells, we settled on this blue 12-inch tom made by D-Drum and took it up to my garage to get started with disassembly and removing the wrap. Once we had this down to a bare shell, we spent a little bit of time debating on a final depth and lug layout, and then got on to cutting the shell down on the table saw. After getting the shell cut down, we decided to add new bearing edges on that fresh cut edge, and we laughed about it for a bit, debating on the bearing edge style, seeing as this drum was set to have mesh heads, but I figured we might as well take the time to do it now, just in the case that this might ever get used with standard heads, where a bearing edge would have much more impact on the tone and potential of this drum. Once we had a new bearing edge cut, we lined up this drum on a layout mat to draw some new lines for this offset lug pattern we'd be using in order to get all the lugs to fit nicely on the shell with its new shallow depth. And then with all the new holes laid out, I could go through with a punch and a drill to get all of these holes drilled through. And while we had the shell over here, we laid out the mounting bracket and drilled that out as well. Now typically in a project like this, I'd like to take the time to stain, paint, or wrap this shell to not only give it a new look, but protect the shell a little bit. But in the spirit of getting this done quickly for Adam, we moved right on to assembly and made sure everything was going to work as intended. While I got the lugs back on, Adam was able to get the trigger and cable connector installed, and lucky for us, this connector was a perfect fit to be threaded through the former air vent hole. Once everything was attached to the shell, I found a pair of 12-inch 6-hole hoops to use, and then some tension rods to secure it all together, and we tuned this drum up with a mesh head on the batter side, and then an old beat-up head for the resonant side, until Adam could get whatever he wanted to use on there. We then brought the drum over into my studio to see if it would all work. Roland Jazz Brushes sound played on our new custom electronic drum featuring my brushes.
Jazzy.
After a bit of experimentation and goofing around, we decided to call it a wrap, and Adam took this drum home. The next day, he sent me some messages to show me the progress of the finished job he was working on, and we made plans for me to come up to his place so I could see the final product. I don't have a big interest in electronic drums, but in the end this turned out to be a fun project to work on, and for the portion we did at my house, we spent less than 90 minutes building this out. This was a great way for me to get rid of one more of these orphan drums, and I'm glad it'll be useful for a friend. I know there's plenty of products out there on the market to add additional triggers onto a sampling pad, like the Roland SPDSX Pro that Adam is using here, but even in the electronic drum world, there's still some pretty great DIY options to try, if that's your thing. I hope this video will make a few more people aware of this cool dual zone trigger made by Jobeky, and if you have any experience with this, I'd love to hear about it, so leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on future video releases. And until next time, thanks.